guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and appreciate you guys checking out today's episode. Guys, got a really good video for y'all today. This is going to help you land a lot more bass, and we're going to be talking about how to correctly adjust the drag on your reel based upon different type of lures that you're using, because I think there's a huge amount of mistakes and misunderstanding that anglers make about how to set a the drag on a bait cast reel and a spinning reel both. So I'm going to go over with you guys in today's video how I set them and how it's really maximized my efficiency. It helps me set the hook better, helps you land the fish better. So we're going to get into that in today's episode. Also, guys, real quick, I had one of the things I've been talking about. I'm getting ready to do a bunch of reel reviews for the holiday seasons as far as if you guys are looking to buy something. This is a reel, guys, I really like. This is that new Lews hypermag spinning reel. This is an awesome freaking reel at a good price. It's got a 6-to-1 gear ratio. It's got 11 ball bearings, 3000 series spool. Just a really, really nice spinning reel. I'll link this in my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video. If you're looking for a good spinning reel, I think you guys would really be happy with this. So we'll put that in there. And also, guys, thank you very much for everybody that's taken time to subscribe here to Advanced Bass Fishing. And finally, anybody interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, guys, we're getting together our jerkbait lessons for this winter, starting now. Just send me a private message at my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, for details, so I appreciate that. Okay, a lot of misconceptions as far as drag goes, as far as how to set it. And I want to go through both ones, as far as both the bait cast reel drag here and the spinning reel, and sort of tell you guys what I prefer on it. Now, first of all, when you're talking about setting a drag reel on both a spinning tackle and a bait caster, there's two considerations to make. Number one is you have to have the drag set correctly in order to, when you set the hook, your line does not slip to, basically impede your hook set. So you have to have your drag set tight enough to when you set the hook on that fish, you don't have a slippage within the spool itself, because that way you're not going to get a solid hook set. So that's the number one thing. And then the second consideration with that is when you're fighting the fish, you want to make sure that the drag is loose enough, or that you compensate by pushing the thumb bar to where if a fish makes a surge with your lure, it doesn't break your line or it doesn't pull the hook out of your lure. So here is my recommendation. We'll talk about bait caster first, and we'll go to spinning rod. What I like to do is based upon if I'm pulling into a fish or if I'm actually setting the hook. So some of the lures that I actually, pull into, I actually pull into about all of them, but some of them are more forceful. Let's say, for example, I'm fishing a crankbait and I'm reeling this crankbait, and I pull into a fish when I got a crankbait. In this situation, I don't want my drag that tight. So I'm gonna loosen it up based upon my pound test that I'm using to where I've got some decent slippage. So, it's slipping like that, when I set the hook. That way, say for example, if that fish nips at that crankbait and it's got like one barb in it, I've got a little bit more to play on it. Or say for example, I'm using 10-pound test line on that crankbait, and I'm not really sure how big this fish is, but it makes a real fast surge. I know the drag is going to slip when that fish makes a surge. But on both a spinning outfit and a bait caster, do not rely on the drag to save you, because a lot of times, I don't care how smooth your drag is, it's not going to be set correctly to compensate for the fact that a fish maybe not hooked the best. Let's say, for example, you're fishing a crankbait and you've got one barb of one barb of one hook is in like some skin of the fish's mouth, to where if you put too much pressure on it, that skin's just going to break off of there. Even if you have your drag set light like this, that's still too tight. So one of the things I want to recommend, guys, is when you fight a fish, let's say for example, you set the hook on the fish and you're fighting that fish, as long as that fish is coming to you, keep reeling. But if that fish starts to make a surge away from you, learn to push your thumb bar like that and hold your thumb on your spool and let that be your drag. So it can be as loose or as tight as you want. It's like you can lock it down where they can't get it, or you can put just barely amount of pressure on it and it goes out super, super easy. So say, for example, you're fighting that fish on a crankbait and that fish jumps and you see that fish is barely hooked and it makes another run down. That is when you want to push that thumb bar, and if that fish takes line out, let them have it. Just put like next to no pressure on it and let them have it. And when that fish stops making it run, start taking up the slack again, start reeling that fish in until it does the same thing. It makes another run, push your thumb bar, let it take as much line with a minimum amount of resistance, take it up again when the fish is coming to you, and you'll be able to wear that fish out, even if it's barely hooked, and get it to the boat, to where as if you didn't push that thumb bar in and you relied on your drag and that fish makes a run, it could very easily rip that, hook out of the fish's mouth. So practice using that thumb bar and practice adjusting your drag accordingly to the line test and the lure category that you're using. Now, if you're using a bait caster and you're flipping a jig with 25-pound test line, you don't want any slippage, because at that point, if you set the hook on that fish and you're fighting that fish with 25-pound test line, number one, you need to get a good hook set with that larger diameter hook, and the 25-pound test line will allow you to put more pressure on that fish when you're fighting it, because you're not dealing with like one little barb of a treble hook. Now, sometimes, granted, that fish may be barely hooked with a jig, but most of the time it's going to be hooked a little bit solider. The heavier line, you don't really have to do that as much. I still use the thumb bar even when I'm flipping, because say, for example, you get a 7 or 8 pound bass on, it can break 25-pound line. If your drag is locked down tight, it can break it. So you definitely want to use the thumb bar again on a bigger fish. Okay, now on a spinning rod, it's a little bit more, it's simpler. Here's what you want to do with the spinning rod, guys. Lock your drag down all the time. You do not need a drag on a spinning rod, on a spinning reel, because you have no business using a drag on a spinning reel. When you're using a spinning reel, you always want to, I got lines wrapped in here, but you always want to back reel. You don't ever want to rely on a drag on a spinning reel, because same reason again, barely hooked fish, you're using light line, doesn't matter how smooth the drag is. Here's another example, guys. How many times have you seen like some guys on the Elite Series, they're fishing their braid to fluorocarbon, which you don't ever want to use, just use straight fluorocarbon, and they get a big smallmouth on, and that smallmouth makes a run, and you see them going like this, stripping line out. That is absolutely ridiculous that they're doing that. If you know how to back reel, all you have to do is you set the hook on that fish, and that fish is coming in, and you just back reel, take your anti-reverse off. Never buy a spinning reel, guys, that does not have this anti-reverse on it. A lot of the new ones don't have it where you have to use your drag. Get a spinning rod like this hypermag that you can back reel, and that fish makes a run, just back reel like that. And you can put a maximum or a minimum amount of pressure on that fish instantaneously. Do not rely on a drag. I have seen it time and time again. These guys have these $500 Shimano spinning reels that's supposed to have the best drag system of all time, and I see them busting their line because the drag cannot keep up with the fish movement, but you can by learning to back reel. Now, a lot of people say, oh, Randy, you can't back reel, you can't back reel a big fish, they're too fast. Bullshit, guys. I've landed fish in the 30 to 40 pound class, flathead catfishes, striped bass, back reeling with 6 and 8 pound test line on a spinning reel. So if you think you're going to catch fish bigger than 30 or 40 pounds, then yeah, use your drag, but it's not going to be applicable in fresh water. Most of the time you're dealing with, 2 to 5 pound bass. That's what we're after. And you can back reel very efficiently with that. So that's the system I have used. A lot of people are going to say, Randy, that's ridiculous. I've had no problem with drags. You need to trust a drag. You don't need to. Guys, I have done this for 50 years. I have experimented extensively using drags, extensively with using braid to fluorocarbon, extensively with using straight fluorocarbon. And I can tell you guys, if you use my system there about how to use a drag, you're going to have far fewer mistakes and far fewer lost fish. So anyway, guys, hope it helps out. We'll talk later. See you.